Mimi, thanks for joining. God bless you. God bless you for coming. God bless you. God bless you. My people. My name is Ben, aka Benny He Davis. My people, we are here again today for another very, very, very interesting and intriguing topic. And the topic for today, my people, is on corruption. I repeat, my dear good people of Nigeria and Africa and indeed the world. Today's topic is on corruption. I know many of us are not new to that word corruption, but that word corruption has hit in so deeply in our society to the extent that we need to talk about it, if not every day, at least often. My people, like I said, today's topic is going to be on corruption with emphasis on Nigeria, how much corruption has dealt with us as a people. You will recall, my people, that once upon a time, a former Nigerian president, Muhammadu Buhari, I quote, did say that if corruption no buy Nigeria, Nigeria will buy corruption. I'm sure many of us who understand that language understand what I'm saying. For those of you who don't understand that language, what is basically saying that if corruption don't take you out, you will take out corruption. That's how much corruption can impact a country and a people. So no thanks to corruption at all, especially in that part of the world where we came from, in Nigeria. Corruption has eaten very, very deeply in our society. And so for me, I want to start today by asking this question first. What is corruption? My people, what is corruption? Corruption, as we were told, is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. I'll take that again. Corruption, basic definition of corruption is abuse of entrusted power for what? Personal gain or private gain. Now, it includes bribery, it includes embezzlement, it includes nepotism and abuse of office. That is the basic definition of corruption. Now, Amnesty International and Transparency International defines corruption as the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. That's Transparency definition of corruption. It defines corruption as the abuse of entrusted power for private or personal gain, as the case may be. Now, the impact of corruption in some countries, especially in Nigeria, I always like to use Nigeria as a case study because Nigeria is deep in corruption. I know there are so many other countries in the world where there's corruption. If you ask me, literally all the countries in the world, there's corruption, some level of corruption. But the reason why we are dealing or taking on Nigeria is that in the case of Nigeria, it has now become a way of life of the people, especially the ruling class, especially the leadership in Nigeria. They now sleep corruption and wake corruption. They now eat corruption. They now live corruption. Corruption has now become a religion to them. Corruption has now become a model where they cannot do without. That's why Nigeria, in the case of Nigeria, we have to take corruption very, very seriously. That is why Muhammadu Buhari, the former president of Nigeria, the man I personally refer to as the clueless president, one of the most clueless presidents Nigeria has ever had, did say that if corruption don't buy us as a people, we will buy corruption. And if you ask me now, my dear brothers and sisters, I am sad to report to you that as we speak today, corruption has actually bought us as a people. We are just breathing, we are not living anymore. All because of corruption. No thanks to what? Our leaders. Now, the impact of corruption in a society like Nigeria is that it declines the economic growth of that country. Corruption discourages foreign investment. It increases poverty and selfless entrepreneurship. I'll take that again. Corruption discourages foreign investment. It increases poverty in the land and stifles entrepreneurship. What that means is that it brings it brings poverty. Poverty growth will be on the rise when in a country like Nigeria where there's corruption. It stifles the entrepreneurship. That is to say, companies or businesses will not strive. Corruption retards development. What that means that corruption retards development is that in a country like Nigeria, one of the reasons why we have failed to develop as a country is because of corruption. So corruption retards development by way of when public funds or public resources are being diverted from useful public goods and services to private use. I repeat that again. I also want to take that from a quote by Akinrinade and Olarimonyu in 2004, said that corruption retards development by diverting public resources from useful public goods and services to private use. Now, another reason why corruption is also very, very, very bad and its negative impact in a society like Nigeria is that poor infrastructure and services are also the bane of corruption. The reason why a society like Nigeria lacks infrastructure and services is because of corruption. Now, corruption also leads to bad roads, leads to schools and hospitals that are poorly funded and abandoned, funds that are budgeted, are looted or inflated through ghost contract. All these are all because of what? Corruption. Youth unemployment and brain drain is also part of corruption. When youths get out of school after spending, reasonable amount of time studying in the universities, they come out of school, no jobs, and the few ones that have jobs are not well paid, and those who are very, very smart find their ways out of the country, and that has also increased the brain drain in Nigeria. Brain drain is when your best now leaves your country to another country for greener pastures. That's what they call brain drain. Now, mismanagement of public funds hinder job creation. Nigeria has a culture of mismanagement of public funds. That is why jobs are not being created in Nigeria. Money is meant to create jobs. Money is meant to, build factories, industries for jobs to be created, are being embezzled. If not embezzled, are being, invested in wrong areas that will not yield required results for the people of Nigeria. As a result, many talented Nigerians flee abroad for better opportunities. That's what I just talked about, brain drain. Brain what? Drain. Brain drain, like I just said a while ago, is when your best start leaving the shores of your country to, foreign land for better life. Now, corruption has also not spared the judiciary. As we speak today, the Nigerian judiciary is number one in terms of corruption in Nigeria. The facts are there. I am not just making it up. Go and verify what I'm saying. As we speak today, corruption in the judiciary in Nigeria is at its peak. Corruption in the judiciary in Nigeria has never been this bad. It's been bad, but under this current administration, it has actually gone over the roof. The police are also not spared. I used to think before now that the most corrupt institution in Nigeria is the Nigerian police. But as we speak today, the judiciary seems to be the number one in terms of corruption in Nigeria. Anti-graft agencies that were established, like the EFCC, the ICPC, to fight corruption, they too are now embedded in corruption. They too now sleep away corruption. You can see the predicament of their country. Those who are made to fight corruption are they themselves now the most corrupt people in the country. So rule of law becomes selective and ineffective when there's corruption. When there's corruption in the country, rule of law is thrown to the bin, and selective punishment is now the order of the day as a result of corruption in a country like Nigeria. So some of these, problems of that country, Nigeria, and most countries in Africa, is corruption. Once we are able to deal with corruption, I can assure all of you that Nigeria and maybe some countries in Africa will begin to do well. Like Peter Gregory Obi said, he said, if you as a leader, if you are not corrupt and your family's members are not corrupt, you would have succeeded in curbing corruption up to 50%. I'll take that again. Peter Gregory Obi did say that if you personally, you who is a leader, you are not corrupt, and members of your family, they are not corrupt, you would have sliced down the level of corruption to up to 50%, if not more. And that is the truth of the matter. The reason why corruption is on its rise and it will continue to be on its rise in Nigeria is because the people at the helms of affairs in Nigeria, the so-called leaders, are the most corrupt people in Nigeria today. And that is why the country has remained corrupt. That's why the country has remained underdeveloped. That's why the country has remained the way it is today. Now, security too is not left out. Security is also not left out in this whole matter as far as corruption is concerned. Corruption in the military and the police undermines national security. When the corruption has gone to the level of even the military in your country, the police, that is possible threat to a nation like Nigeria, and it undermines the security of that country. The fight against Boko Haram, for example, is a case that we all can see in Nigeria today. That because of the monumental corruption in the military, in the police force in Nigeria, Boko Haram has become elusive. Boko Haram has become a terrorist group that Nigerian military could not defeat in Nigeria, and that's all because of corruption. So, my dear good people of Nigeria, corruption, no thanks to corruption and no thanks to the leaders of Nigeria. So, the other question we're here to ask ourselves is that, how corrupt are the Nigerian leaders? I repeat, how corrupt are the leadership in Nigeria? Nigerian leaders are widely perceived as deeply corrupt, both past and present leaders. I'll take that again. Nigerian leaders are widely perceived to be as deeply corrupt as the current and even the past leaders in Nigeria. Nigeria, according to Transparency International, ranked 145 out of 180 countries on the Corruption Perception Index. Over $400 billion is estimated to have been stolen from Nigeria's treasury since independence. The former Prime Minister of Britain, David Cameron, did say at that time that going by the corruption level in Nigeria, if you sit down and look at the amount of money that has been stolen from Nigeria since independence, that if such amount of money was stolen from a country like United Kingdom, the country United Kingdom would cease to exist. I'll take that again. David Cameron, the former Prime Minister of United Kingdom, said that the level of corruption, the level of the amount of money that has been stolen out of Nigeria, that if you were to be in the UK, such amount of money is being stolen, the country UK will cease to exist, will be shut down. That tells you the monumental corruption level in Nigeria. That tells you how much money has been stolen out of Nigeria. And according to the records, which are verifiable, over $400 billion is estimated to have been stolen from Nigeria's treasury since our independence in 1960. Corruption has become a way of life in Nigeria, public service and political arena as well. Corruption has become a way of life in Nigeria, especially among the elites in Nigeria. According to Ogbede M 2024, political leadership and corruption in Nigeria, he said corruption has become a way of life of Nigerian, of the average Nigerian man and woman, especially the leadership. And so when we talk about corruption, we are referring to the leadership in Nigeria. We've had past leaders that were massively corrupt, like the late Sani Abacha, he was alleged to have stolen over $5 billion. Petroleum subsidy scam, billions lost under multiple administrations. PDP and APC kept throwing, blames at each other. Even anti-corruption companies have been politicized, like the EFCC, the ICPC. They too are now being, they are now part of the corruption trend in Nigeria. And so, for me, they have not done well. If you ask me, they should be scrapped. The ICPC should be scrapped and and they reform a new one if possible, because the current ICPC and the EFCC have become a shadow of itself. So, what can be done in Nigeria? That's a question we also should be asking ourselves. Some of the things that can be done in Nigeria is strengthening the EFCC, for example, strengthening the EFCC and ICPC, strengthening the judiciary, enforce transparency. Laws like the Freedom of Information Act should be enforced. Promote civic education and accountability. Encourage youth participation in governance. All these are some of the ways that you can curb corruption if Nigeria is actually ready to curb corruption. And so for me, no thanks to the leadership in Nigeria. They are very corrupt. And as we speak today, there is not a single institution in Nigeria that is free from corruption. I've said here before that as we speak today, the judiciary remains number one in terms of corruption as far as the institutions in Nigeria are concerned. Now, in conclusion, corruption is not just stealing. It's killing development and the future of the people of Nigeria. Excuse me. For Nigeria to rise, its people must demand honesty, justice, and transparency at every level. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I repeat, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is when good men refuse to what? Do nothing. So for Nigeria to begin to find our place, for Nigeria to begin to ensure that the country begins to come out from its current quagmire, so to speak, effort must be towards ensuring that the corruption level is brought to a reasonable level, because you cannot eradicate corruption entirely. There's nowhere in the world where corruption can be 100% eradicated, but it should be brought down to a level that is reasonable. And for that to happen, the Nigerian people, in this case, the masses of Nigeria, must and should start demanding for some of these reforms, just so they can be able to begin to find their bearings again. Like I said, no thanks to corruption. Corruption is and remains the major problem of Nigeria's development. Until I come away again, my people, for those of you who have listened, if you find this message interesting and makes sense to you, please share it, like it. Let's know what your thoughts are. Do you think that the level of corruption in Nigeria has been and is still the part of the problem of the country called Nigeria? If yes, please let us know. If also you said no, do also let us know. We're here to read your commentaries, and with your commentaries, we can do better. Until I come away again, my people, my name is Ben, and bye for now. Cheers.